Sam, switching gears here to spring football, obviously getting things kicked off this week. Do you think by the end of spring we will know who the starting quarterback is or have a pretty good idea, or you think that's going all the way into fall?
I do, whether they tell us that or not. I do think we'll have a pretty good idea. I think we'll have a sense of how they progress throughout the spring. And then, the spring game is not an exact science by no means, but you'll be able to tell if Dylan Raiola looks the part. I don't think you want to take that thing all the way up until mid to late August. Now, here's one thing. What I'll say is that if you don't know, then they're going to go looking in the portal to find supplementary options. Whether that guy starts or not, I don't know. But
just give you some options.
There's two questions about this team, about the quarterback position. There's the question about Raiola. Is he ready? And then there's the question of who's going to back him up. Now, if you say it's Haarberg, that's fine. I think he can do that. But, then if you're going to have Haarberg do that, then you can't really play him. Like, you can't play him a bunch. And they're going to have to hold themselves back on that because if Raiola's the starter, then you're like, well, we're just going to sit this great athlete over here and have him hold a clipboard until the starter gets hurt. That's, will they do that? They didn't appear to be heading in that direction last year. And so that's why I think a backup like a portal guy who understands his role would be helpful here, because I think you can use Haarberg in other ways, but you got to be careful to use your backup quarterback as a tight end or as an H-back if there's a chance he could play quarterback. So, there's lots of things to consider there. I guess we'll see what they do.
I think it's such a fascinating position to evaluate because you don't have great numbers. And I think all the guys need pressure and for people to be physical and, have some muddy pockets. But I just don't know how much you're going to be able to see because, you just don't have the depth, because two of those guys can really spin it, especially in environments where they're just a lot, where they know that they're not going to be taken to the ground and you're not going to have a ton of dirty pockets. Like, the evaluation may be hard because I go back to something Coach Rule said, I don't know, it was right after the Colorado week, and he looked at me, and this was 90 minutes before the game, and he said, the thing about quarterbacks, you never know until they play a real game. And I'll never forget that he said that. So that's always in the back of my mind because I know he believes that.
Sure. Yeah, I think I don't know. This is they're starting spring football, and we'll get to talk to them on Thursday. And obviously, we're still in that basketball glow for the Husker men and
women for that matter.
The women too.
Yeah.
So there'll be time to go over this, but it's the one position on the team for Nebraska that's like a little perplexing. Like, it's just you have an 8 or 9 or 10 win roster if you get that position right, and it feels like they must feel very, very good about Raiola. We'll see.
What choice do they have, though, right? You can't.
Well, they could go out and get another quarterback.
Could you?
Right, but we saw the Kyle McCord thing, right? They were trying to get another quarterback, and if you've got a guy like Raiola in the mix, that not a lot of guys want to sign up for that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I understand that. I don't know. I think that's probably the one position where, if Raiola is good, man, you got it really good for 3 years. And I'm not saying he won't be. In fact, I anticipate. I'm very high on the guy. Most coaches function out of I need to imagine the worst possible situation, and imagine how badly this could go, and then prepare against it. And at that position, you know, there's a potential to, let's just say Rail is terrific, but he gets hit the wrong way in game whatever. What are you then going back to the triple option offense? Like you know, or is Daniel Kalen ready? Or is there another quarterback that you're going to go out and find? And you know, you can't get inside the heads of people. There's just no way to know. Like, is Chuba Purdy really going to be happy? I mean, he clearly didn't know where he wanted to go, because when he left Nebraska, he went to San Jose State, and then he left there to go to Nevada. There's no, like, you know, he just wanted to leave, and that's too bad, because I think Purdy actually has some skills and could have been very beneficial in this program. You know, but he's gone. I don't think they ran him off. You know, so it's a question of, like, the worst. They won 5 games last year, and you really tip your cap to how hard Harbert played and how much he did for the team. And, like, people need to honor and respect that. I don't know that you could have had more frustrating quarterback play than you did last year. It prevented Nebraska from going to a bowl game, and it won't. I don't think it's going to prevent Nebraska this year. I think Nebraska is going to win 7 or 8 games regardless of what happens with the QB. But this is a team that could do even more than that if they get that position right. So it asks a lot of Raiola to be good right away, or you've got to go out and find somebody else. That's the signature question of spring camp. I mean, what other question is there that rises to that level? I don't know. Well,
let me just throw this out there. So you got uncertainty in development at wide receiver, right? I'm not sure how you personally feel about the tight end room. And that running back room, I mean, I saw the pictures, and I know the guys are hanging out, but that running back room's got to emerge too, right? Because I think he likes the talent, but if I just do the mental exercise out loud, there's a fair amount of questions on the offensive side, and for once, O-line isn't one of them.
Yeah, and no one can speak to this better than you about the running back position. I don't know where I think I put it in the rewind today. You know, you were part of this too. The running back position at Nebraska was the premier running back university from, I don't know, you could say the 1970s, but let's just say from 1980 until really 2014, when Amir Abdullah was there was no better school in the country at running back than Nebraska. And the last decade, it hasn't been. And so how do you get that back? Like, how do you change that conversation? Because if you chart from, let's just say, the day that Mike Rozier walked in to the day that Amir Abdullah left, you're not going to come up with a better group of college running backs. It just doesn't exist. And so what happened there? Why did it happen? You know, how do you get it? How do you fix it? How do you change it? I think that's a big question too, but you can get by, because we've seen teams do. I mean, Iowa won 10 games last year with guys that are just fine, but they're not world beaters. You can win games without an elite running back. I'd like to see them get back to that point. You can win games with wide receivers that nobody even knows, like Iowa's receivers. The question is, can you get good enough quarterback play, and then can you prevent yourself from turning it over 3 times a game so that your defense is constantly has its back against the wall, which the defense constantly did. And so we'll see.
I don't know. Iowa's always an interesting example, because if you're not going to be good in one, they're elite in the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they have elite level special teams, elite level defense. So, like, it's
a tough way to operate.
That's a really hard way to operate. Like, it's I think that they're a tough model. You know, but we always say that, right? They're like the natural. Well, Iowa can do it, but you got to remember, like, they're great in other capacities.
They are. I think they've cracked the code in some ways on how to win close games, but people don't want to give them credit because it's Iowa and it's Kirk Ferentz, and so
because how it looks.
Credit. Yeah, but I think it's Moneyball what they're doing
right, and they embrace it too, right? Just imagine wanting this thing to be a 1-score game late because you know it's advantage you.
Yeah, weird.
That's Sam McKewon, Omaha World-Herald. Sam, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Sam.